pen hovered over the signature line. Jacob's hand steady. His father watching from the doorway, saying nothing. "Right here, Mr. Brennan," the water company rep said. "This finalizes the transfer." Jacob signed. The rep smiled, papers shuffled, documents collected. The meeting lasted 12 minutes. Outside in the south field, the old irrigation pump sat on its concrete pad, engine housing rusted, pipes crusted with mineral deposits. Nobody looked at it on the way out. The check cleared 3 days later. $127,000 for the water rights on 180 acres, clean sale, legal transfer. Jacob told his father it was the smart move. "Wells are running dry across 3 counties," Jacob said. "Municipal systems are taking over. This way, we cash out before the rights become worthless." His father, Martin, just nodded. He was 73. Jacob figured he didn't understand modern water markets, didn't understand scarcity economics, didn't understand that holding on to outdated assets was how farms died. The pump stayed where it was, rusted, ignored, forgotten. The water company was called Aquaterra Regional. They bought rights across 4 counties, consolidated them, redistributed water through modern pipeline infrastructure. Efficient, centralized, profitable. Jacob got the paperwork in June, explaining the new system. Starting July 1st, all irrigation water would come through metered connections, municipal-grade delivery, scheduled access windows, professional operation. Rates were reasonable, $340 per acre-foot during peak season. Jacob did the math. For his corn and alfalfa, he'd need about 90 acre-feet. Call it $30,000 for the irrigation season. Higher than pumping his own well, but the well was nearly dry anyway. He signed the connection agreement. The old pump sat in the field, disconnected from nothing, because nobody had bothered to cap the well beneath it. The company's surveyors had walked right past it during their assessment. Too old, too small, not even worth documenting. Martin walked out to the pump one evening in late June, stood there looking at it. The engine was a 1960s Chevrolet Straight 6, converted to run on propane or gasoline. The pump housing was cast iron. The well pipe dropped 340 feet into bedrock. He touched the engine block, still warm from the afternoon sun, still bolted down, still connected. He walked back to the house without saying anything. July started hot, record heat, no rain, the kind of summer that turns field edges brown by the second week. Jacob called Aquaterra on July 8th to schedule his first irrigation cycle. They told him he was in queue position 47. Estimated delivery window, July 19th, 22nd. "That's 2 weeks out," Jacob said. "High demand period, Mr. Brennan. The system allocates based on contract priority and regional balance. My corn's at critical moisture stress right now." "We understand. You're in the queue. We'll notify you 48 hours before your window opens." Jacob hung up, looked out at his fields. The corn leaves were starting to curl. Classic drought stress. 2 more weeks without water and he'd lose yield. Maybe a lot of yield. He called back the next day. Same answer. Queue position 44 now, 3 spots closer. Still over a week away. Martin was in the machine shed when Jacob came in looking frustrated. The old man was sorting through parts, wrenches, filters, belts. "What are you doing?" Jacob asked. "Maintenance." "On what?" "The pump." Jacob stared at him. "Dad, we don't own the water rights anymore. The well's not part of the system." "Well's still there. It's probably dry. Half the wells in the county are dry." Martin picked up a socket wrench. "Probably." Jacob left him there. His father didn't understand, didn't see the bigger picture. The old pump was a relic, The new system was professional, modern, regulated. It would work. It had to. July 19th came. No notification from Aquaterra. Jacob called. Queue position 29. New estimated window, July 26th down to 28th. You said the 19th. The system reallocates dynamically based on critical needs assessment. Several large operations had emergency classifications. Your window adjusted accordingly. My corn's dying. We understand your concern. You're prioritized for the next available cycle. Jacob drove out to the field that afternoon. The corn was bad. Leaves curled tight. Stalks starting to show stress cracks. He'd lose 20 bushels an acre minimum, maybe 30. At current prices, that was $40,000 in lost revenue. He stood there feeling the numbers crush him. The smart move, the modern solution, the professional system. It wasn't delivering water. Behind him, he heard an engine start. Old, rough, unfamiliar. He turned around. His father had the pump running. Martin had spent 3 days getting it operational. New fuel lines, cleaned carburetor, fresh oil. The Chevrolet engine turned over on the fourth pull, coughed black smoke, then settled into an uneven idle. The pump itself needed work. Martin replaced the packing glands, cleared the intake screen, bled the system. On the third day, he opened the main valve. Nothing happened for 40 seconds. Then water came. Rust brown at first, clearing to gray, then finally running clean. Cold, steady, flowing at maybe 30 gallons a minute. Not fast, but reliable. The pressure gauge showed 60 psi. The well depth marker read 340 feet. The water table had dropped, but it was still there, still accessible, still producing. Jacob stood, watching water flow into the irrigation ditch. Water nobody had paid for. Water from a well everyone assumed was dead. How long has this been here? Jacob asked. Since 1962. Why didn't you tell me it still worked? Martin shut the valve down, let the engine idle. You didn't ask. The corn got water that night. Martin ran the pump for 6 hours, flooding the main ditch, letting it distribute through the field. Old-school irrigation, inefficient by modern standards. But the corn didn't care about efficiency. It cared about water. Jacob watched the corn respond over the next 3 days. Leaves uncurling, color returning. The stress cracks stopped spreading. Not perfect, but alive. He didn't tell Aquaterra, didn't cancel his queue position, just waited. July 26th arrived. No notification. Jacob called. Queue position 18. New window, August 4th, 6th. He didn't argue this time, just hung up. That evening, he walked out to where his father was greasing the pump bearings. How much water can it pull? Jacob asked. 30 gallons a minute, steady. That's not enough for the whole operation. It's enough for what matters. Jacob did the math. In his head, 30 gallons a minute was 1,800 gallons an hour. Run it 12 hours a day, and that was 21,600 gallons. Enough to keep 40 acres alive. Not thriving, just alive. His critical corn was 35 acres. Can we run it longer than 12 hours? Jacob asked. Can run it 24 hours if the engine holds. Jacob looked at the old Chevrolet block. Rust spots, oil leaks, 30 years of weather damage. Will it hold? Martin wiped his hands on a rag. It hasn't stopped yet. August came. The heat got worse. Aquaterra's system was breaking down. Not mechanically, politically, contractually. The large operations had priority clauses. The emergency classifications were being applied liberally. Water was being diverted to operations with better lawyers, better contracts, more political leverage. Small farmers were getting pushed back, and back, and back. Jacob's neighbor, Dennis, called on August 3rd. His irrigation window had been delayed 4 times. His soybeans were lost. 40 acres. Total loss. "You getting water?" Dennis asked. Jacob paused. "Some." "Through Aquaterra?" "No." "How then?" Jacob told him about the pump. Dennis went quiet. Then he asked the question Jacob knew was coming. "Can I buy access?" This was the moment, the split, the decision that changed everything. Jacob could say no. Keep the water for his own operation. Survive quietly while his neighbors failed. Or he could say yes and become what Aquaterra was supposed to be. He looked at his father. Martin was listening, waiting. "How much water can we spare?" Jacob asked. "Depends what you want to keep." "I need 30 acres of corn protected. The rest I can negotiate." Martin calculated. "That leaves maybe 12 hours a day for outside work. Call it 21,000 gallons, enough to keep 20 acres barely alive." Jacob called Dennis back. "I can give you water for 20 acres, $200 per irrigation cycle, cash up front." Dennis didn't hesitate. "Done." 2 days later, Dennis showed up with $600 cash, 3 irrigation cycles worth. Jacob ran the pump for 6 hours that night, diverting water into Dennis's adjacent field through a temporary pipeline. The pump ran steady. The water flowed. Dennis's soybeans got what they needed. By August 10th, Jacob had 4 more neighbors asking. Same terms, $200 per cycle, cash only. The pump ran 20 hours a day now. Martin maintained it. Jacob managed the schedule. The old Chevrolet engine burned propane at $3.40 per hour. Operating cost was maybe $70 per day. Revenue was averaging $400 per day. The pump was making money. The modern system was making excuses. Aquaterra finally delivered Jacob's water on August 12th. 6 weeks late, the irrigation window was 48 hours. Metered access. Jacob used maybe 30% of it. His critical corn was already saved. He didn't need their water anymore. He didn't tell them that, just paid his bill, kept the connection active, but he didn't rely on it. The pump was the real system now. By late August, Jacob was running water for 9 operations. Scheduling was complex. He created a rotation. Each farmer got 1 6-hour cycle per week. Priority based on crop stress and payment timing. Dennis asked if he could get extra cycles. Jacob charged $250 for off-schedule irrigation. Dennis paid. The pump ran constantly now, 22 hours a day. Martin serviced it during the 2-hour maintenance windows. Oil changes every 40 hours. Filter replacements, bearing grease. Fuel system checks. The engine never stopped. The water never stopped. And the old pump nobody had looked at was now controlling survival for 180 acres across 5 operations. September brought the audit. Aquaterra sent a field inspector. They'd noticed Jacob's usage had dropped significantly, wanted to verify he wasn't accessing unauthorized water sources. The inspector walked Jacob's property, checked connections, reviewed meter readings. Then he saw the pump. "What's that? Old irrigation pump? Is it operational?" Jacob could have lied, could have said no, but the engine was warm. The ground was wet. The ditch was flowing. Yes, the inspector took notes. "Are you selling water?" "I'm providing irrigation services. The water comes from my well, my equipment, my property." The water rights on this property were sold to Aquaterra. Surface and allocation rights. The well predates your contract. It's not part of your system. The inspector took more notes, said he'd file a report, left, looking uncertain. Jacob called his lawyer that afternoon. The lawyer reviewed the sale documents, reviewed the well registration, reviewed state water law. 3 days later, the lawyer called back. "You're fine," he said. The rights they bought cover new appropriation and surface diversion. Your well was established in 1962. It's grandfathered. As long as you're not exceeding historic use volumes, it's legally independent. Can I sell access? You're not selling water. You're providing a service using your equipment and your grandfathered allocation. Legally distinct. Jacob hung up, looked at his father. Martin was already heading out to the pump for evening maintenance. The well was legal. The pump was functional. The water was theirs. Aquaterra owned the rights, but the Brennans owned the machine. October. Harvest time. Jacob's corn yielded 168 bushels per acre on the 35 acres the pump had protected. The rest of his corn, the acres that had relied on Aquaterra's delayed delivery, yielded 127 bushels per acre, 41 bushels per acre difference. At $4.20 per bushel, that was $172 per acre in lost revenue. Over 90 acres, that was $15,180. But the pump service had generated $14,400 in revenue over 8 weeks. Jacob had almost broken even, not counting the corn he'd saved, not counting the relationships he'd built, not counting the leverage he now held. His neighbors who'd relied entirely on Aquaterra had lost everything. Dennis saved 40% of his crop because of the pump. The others who'd paid for access saved similar amounts. The farmers who hadn't paid lost 60–80% of their yields. At the co-op, people were talking, not about Aquaterra's failures, about the Brennan pump, about who'd gotten water, about who'd been saved. Jacob's phone rang constantly now. Farmers wanting access for next season, wanting contracts, wanting security. He told them all the same thing. "I'll do what I can, but the pump has limits." The limits were real. 30 gallons per minute, 22 hours of operational capacity per day. That was fixed, mechanical, absolute. But within those limits, Jacob controlled everything. November. Aquaterra sent new contracts for the following season. Revised rates, new priority tiers, premium access options. Jacob read the contract. They were charging $520 per acre-foot now, up from $340, a 53% increase. The premium access tier, which guaranteed delivery within 48 hours, cost $780 per acre-foot. He didn't sign, didn't refuse, just set it aside. His father was winterizing the pump, draining lines, changing fluids, replacing worn parts, preparing for next season. "You going to sign with them?" Martin asked. "Don't know yet." "What's the pump worth to you?" Jacob thought about it, really thought about it. The pump could service maybe 140 acres total if run at full capacity. His own operation was 180 acres. He needed the pump for 80 of those acres. The rest could survive on rain if the timing was right. That left capacity for 60 acres of outside work. At $200 per irrigation cycle, running 6 cycles per season, that was $200 per acre. Times 60 acres was $72,000 in potential revenue. The pump's operating cost was maybe $8,000 per season, including fuel, maintenance, and parts. Net revenue, $64,000. His entire farming operation, before the pump, netted maybe $40,000 in a good year. "It's worth more than the farm," Jacob said. Martin nodded, kept working. December. Jacob got a call from Aquaterra's regional manager, not the field rep, the manager. "Mr. Brennan, I understand you've been operating an independent water source." "That's correct. We'd like to discuss integration options. Your well could be valuable to our network. We're prepared to offer a connection agreement. You'd maintain ownership of the pump and well, but we'd purchase your output at wholesale rates and integrate it into our distribution system." "What rates?" $180 per acre-foot delivered. We'd handle all distribution and customer allocation. You just operate the pump on our schedule." Jacob did the math. The pump produced maybe 400 acre-feet per season at full capacity. At $180 per acre-foot, that was $72,000. But he'd lose control, lose scheduling flexibility, become a contractor for their system. "No," Jacob said. "We're offering guaranteed revenue, no customer management, no liability." "I'm not interested." The manager's tone changed. Less friendly, more formal. "Mr. Brennan, I should mention that we're reviewing all independent water operations for potential regulatory compliance issues. State law around water sharing is complex. You might find an integrated approach simpler." It wasn't quite a threat, but it was close. Jacob hung up, called his lawyer. The lawyer reviewed state regulations, called back an hour later. "They're bluffing. Your operation is fully compliant. They can't force integration." "Can they make it difficult?" "They can try, but your grandfathered status is solid." Jacob thanked him, sat at the kitchen table, looked at the pump sitting in the south field, visible through the window. Aquaterra controlled 4,000 acres of water rights across the county, but they couldn't control one 1962 Chevrolet engine and a cast-iron pump that refused to quit. January brought the meetings, farmers gathering at the co-op, talking about the coming season, about Aquaterra's rate increases, about alternatives. Jacob attended one, listened, didn't say much. Tom Heston stood up. "Big operation, 800 acres. We need to organize, pool our leverage, negotiate better rates." Others agreed. Talk of cooperatives, group contracts, unified resistance. Then someone said, "What about the Brennan pump?" The room got quiet. Everyone looked at Jacob. "How much water can you provide?" Tom asked. "Maybe 60 acres worth. That's it." "That's not enough for a cooperative solution." "I know. But it's enough to save some operations." Jacob nodded. "Some." Tom looked around the room. 20 farmers, maybe 3,000 acres total. The math was brutal. The pump could save 60. The rest would have to deal with Aquaterra or pray for rain. "How do you decide who gets access?" someone asked. Jacob hadn't worked this out yet, hadn't wanted to, but the question hung there, demanding an answer. "First come, first served," he said. "Season contracts, signed and paid by March 1st. After that, no guarantees." "What's the rate?" $1,200 per acre for the season. 6 irrigation cycles guaranteed. Additional cycles available if capacity exists. Someone whistled. "That's expensive." "That's what it costs." Tom did the math out loud. "That's $72,000 for 60 acres of coverage. You're making more from the pump than from farming." Jacob didn't deny it. "The pump has limits. I'm not going to promise what I can't deliver." The meeting ended. Farmers left talking, calculating, deciding. By February 15th, Jacob had 42 contracts, 60 acres worth of coverage, all paid in full, $72,000 in the bank before spring planting. The pump hadn't run once yet, but it had already made him more money than 3 years of farming. March. Planting season approached. Jacob prepped his own fields. Martin maintained the pump. The Chevrolet engine got a full rebuild. New gaskets, valve job, timing adjustment. Aquaterra sent another rep. Different approach, friendly, conversational. "Mr. Brennan, I'm not here to pressure you. Just want to understand your long-term thinking." "What about it?" "The pump's valuable now because of the drought. But droughts end. Wells recover. Our system stabilizes. When that happens, what's your plan?" Jacob considered this. The rep had a point. If next year brought normal rainfall, if wells recovered, if Aquaterra fixed their delivery problems, the pump's value would drop. "Then I farm," Jacob said. "Same as before." "But you've built a business around water scarcity. That's not sustainable long-term." "Neither is your delivery system." The rep smiled. Not friendly anymore, just acknowledging the truth. "Fair point." He left. Jacob watched him drive away. The question lingered, though. What happens when the crisis ends? He went out to the pump. Martin was there, running a test cycle, water flowing, pressure steady, engine smooth. "You worried about next year?" Jacob asked. Martin shut the valve. "Let the engine idle. I'm worried about today. Tomorrow can worry about itself." "That's not a business plan. It's a survival plan. That's better." The pump kept running, the water kept flowing, and the questions about next year stayed unanswered because today still needed water. April. The season started. Jacob's contract farmers needed their first cycle. The pump ran 18 hours a day, rotating through the schedule. Each farmer got their 6-hour window. Water flowed into ditches, across fields, into root zones where corn was just emerging. Aquaterra's system was better this year, not perfect, still delays, still priority conflicts, but improved. Some farmers who'd bought pump contracts realized they might not need all 6 cycles, asked about refunds. Jacob said no. The contract was for capacity, not usage. They'd paid for insurance. Whether they used it wasn't his concern. A few got angry, most accepted it. This was the deal. This was how leverage worked. By May, the rhythm was established. Jacob farmed his own acres in the morning, managed pump operations in the afternoon and evening. Martin maintained equipment. The system worked. Revenue kept coming. The contracts covered operation costs and generated profit. Jacob's own crops looked good. Everything was working. Then in June, the Chevrolet engine developed a knock. Subtle, deep, the kind of sound that meant serious problems. Martin heard it first, shut the pump down immediately, spent 3 hours diagnosing. The number 3 cylinder had a cracked piston. The engine needed major work, maybe full replacement. Jacob stood there, looking at the silent pump. 42 farmers depending on it. Contracts guaranteeing delivery. And the engine was down. "How long to fix it?" he asked. "If I can find parts, maybe 2 weeks. If I have to rebuild, 4 weeks." "We don't have 4 weeks." Martin didn't argue, just said, "Then we find parts." They called every salvage yard within 200 miles, found a Chevrolet straight 6 in Nebraska. Used. Unknown condition. $800 plus shipping. Martin drove 12 hours to get it, inspected it in a salvage yard parking lot, paid cash, drove 12 hours back. The engine swap took 4 days. Martin worked 16-hour days. Jacob helped when he could. They had the new engine mounted, connected, and tested by day 5. The pump started on the first pull. Ran smooth. Pressure good. Water flowing. They'd lost 9 days. 9 days of missed irrigation cycles. 9 days of broken promises. Jacob called every contract farmer, explained the situation, offered partial refunds or make-up cycles. Most chose make-up cycles. A few demanded refunds. He paid them. The pump was back, but the vulnerability had been exposed. The entire system depended on one engine, one pump, one well. That night, Jacob couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about single points of failure, about what happens when the irreplaceable breaks. July. The season continued. The pump ran. The contracts were honored. But Jacob was different now, more cautious, more aware of the fragility. He started building redundancy, bought a backup engine, not installed, just ready. Stockpiled parts, filters, belts, gaskets, anything that could fail. The costs added up. But the alternative was worse. The alternative was 42 farmers with worthless contracts and nowhere else to turn. August brought validation. Aquaterra's system crashed for 6 days. Complete failure. Pipeline rupture. Their entire distribution network went offline. Jacob's phone rang constantly. Farmers panicking. Crops dying. Emergency requests. He ran the pump 24 hours a day, skipped maintenance windows, pushed the system beyond safe limits, delivered water to everyone who'd paid. The pump held. Barely, but it held. When Aquaterra's system came back online, nobody cared. The pump had proven itself, not as an alternative, as the primary system. Aquaterra was now the backup. September. Harvest. Jacob's crops yielded well. The contract farmers who'd used the pump averaged 15% higher yields than those who'd relied solely on Aquaterra. Word spread. For next season, Jacob had 60 farmers wanting contracts. He could only serve 42, 60 acres of capacity. That was the limit. He didn't expand, didn't promise more, just said no to the excess demand. The pump had limits. He wouldn't exceed them. The farmers who got contracts considered themselves lucky. The ones who didn't started asking about drilling their own wells, finding their own pumps, building their own independence. Jacob had shown them something, not about water, about control, about the difference between owning the contract and owning the machine. October, 1 year since the water rights were sold. Jacob sat down with his father, reviewed the numbers. The pump had generated $86,000 in revenue. Operating costs were $31,000. Net profit, $55,000. Jacob's farming operation had netted $43,000. Total income, $98,000. Before the pump, he'd averaged $38,000 per year. He'd nearly tripled his income by refusing to rely on the system he'd sold into. "You were right," Jacob said. Martin was cleaning the pump's fuel system. Didn't look up. About what? Not selling the pump, keeping it operational. "I didn't know it would work, just knew it was there." "That's not the same thing." "Close enough." Jacob watched his father work. 74 now, still maintaining a machine most people couldn't even identify, still keeping it running, still refusing to accept that old meant worthless. "What happens when you can't maintain it anymore?" Jacob asked. "Then you learn." "I don't know how." "You'll figure it out, or you'll hire someone who does, but the pump stays." Jacob nodded. The pump would stay, not because of nostalgia, because it worked, because it was theirs, because when everything else failed, it kept running. November. Aquaterra sent new contracts for the following season. Rates had dropped, $420 per acre-foot, down from $520. They were trying to compete. Jacob read the contract. Better terms, faster delivery guarantees, improved priority structures. He still didn't sign, kept it as an option, but not the plan. The plan was the pump. December brought snow. The pump sat under a tarp, winterized, waiting. 60 farmers had already signed contracts for next season, paid in full, $72,000 in the bank. Jacob stood at his kitchen window, looking out at the south field. The pump was barely visible under the snow. Small, forgotten by everyone who'd walked past it 3 years ago. His son had sold the water rights for $127,000. Smart money, modern thinking, professional advice. The pump had generated $86,000 in 1 year, would generate more next year and the year after, as long as the drought continued, as long as the well produced, as long as the engine ran. They'd sold the rights, but they'd kept the machine. The rights were legal. The machine was real. And when water became scarce, reality mattered more than paperwork. Spring arrived, third season. The pump started on the first pull. Water flowed, Contracts were honored. Jacob never lectured his neighbors about their decisions. Never said, "I told you so," to the farmers who'd sold their wells and regretted it. Never explained why he'd kept the pump when everyone thought he was wrong. He just ran the schedule, delivered the water, maintained the equipment. The pump didn't need explanation. It needed maintenance. It needed fuel. It needed someone who understood that leverage isn't always about money. Sometimes it's about ownership. Sometimes it's about the one thing everyone forgot was still connected, still working, still yours. Aquaterra controlled the rights across 4 counties. They had the contracts, the lawyers, the infrastructure, but they didn't have water when their system failed. They had promises. They had excuses. They had priority tiers and allocation schedules and terms of service. The Brennan pump had water, 30 gallons a minute, 22 hours a day, every day, simple, mechanical, functional. People had laughed when Jacob's father insisted on keeping it, called it junk, called it worthless, called it a waste of space. Then the drought came. Then the systems failed. Then the modern solutions couldn't deliver. And the old pump just kept running. If you've ever seen something valuable get dismissed because it looked outdated, or watched modern systems fail while simple machines kept working, or learned the hard way that control matters more than contracts, then maybe you understand what the Brennan pump really represents. Maybe you've held on to something everyone told you to sell. Maybe you've seen what happens when the obvious choice turns out wrong, and the ignored machine becomes essential. The water rights were sold, the contracts were signed, the money was real. But the pump still worked, and working machines don't care about paperwork. They just run.